Welcome to part 2 of We've Got Toys in the Attic on this week's episode of Semi-Retired. Let's not forget the king of board games, Monopoly.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Snakes and Ladders.
Oh, yeah, hold on. Yeah.
Or Shoots and Ladders for you British
That's
folks.
a whole other episode. Eh?
Yeah,
Was it Shoots and Ladders?
I think so. I think
it is. You're right. Shoots and Ladders.
Because maybe because there's no snakes in England?
That's a Charlie Paul. Yeah, that's right. St. Patrick.
Yeah.
Well, St. Patrick drove them out of Ireland.
Was it St. Patrick or St. Brendan?
St. Patrick. St. Brendan.
Yeah, it's
Brendan,
one of the
yeah,
saints.
One of those,
It's probably St. Patrick. That's why they have.
Probably, yeah.
They can run around on St. Patty's Day drinking because there's no snakes to worry about.
Snakes, yeah.
If you fall asleep in a field, you're not going to get eaten. But the king of games is Monopoly, especially for our generation. I would guess probably less so today. But Monopoly was fun. It was simple. If you knew it was 10 squares to a side, so when you rolled, it was easy to move quickly. If you could just
you're right. Yeah. That's right. You kind of got that in your head, right?
Yeah, and you had your fives in the middle, which was the railroads were in the middle, so you could easily do the math and move really, really fast.
Did you have a particular token that you preferred?
Yeah, I think I was always the shoe.
I think I was the shoe too.
I think because my brother always wanted the car.
Yeah.
The little car was cute. It was one of those, like, think of a Minor Morris or an old elongated kind of car.
Was like Bugatti or something, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Car,
right? An old style car, yeah.
I think I was the shoe too, yeah.
Yeah, I like the shoe. The top hat would have been another one.
But it was fun to have the money right sort of thing and to have that all laid out and, Mind you, we didn't play by the rules, as I discovered subsequently.
And again, it was probably my friend Alan who had the Monopoly set, because I don't remember myself having one. And so I would have learned through him. Yeah. And yet, the number of people I speak to, everybody played the same way, which was not by the rules.
Yeah.
You land on a property, you have to buy it. If not, then it has to be auctioned. I remember reading this like years later, reading the rules and going, what the hell is this?
Did that, yeah.
Auctions?
Yeah.
No. And to put a house, you have to own the entire, like each strip had like between
three,
two,
right?
well,
2 or 3, yeah.
And you had to own the entire strip to be able to put a house. And we're like, no, you land on a property, you want to put a house, you want to put a motel, let's go, whatever. Yeah, not a problem.
And of course, there was free parking.
Free parking, which was a useless square on the board, right? I think in the rules, there is nothing. Free parking is just like free parking.
It's free parking, just as it says, yeah.
Like it says on the tin. But what we would do is we would start the game by putting like $100 or a $500 bill under there.
The pot, right?
Yeah, the pot. And anytime you had chance and community chest, right? Chance, you got stuff, community chest, you had to pay often, or so. I forget which way it went. So whenever there was a tax you had to pay, whether it was to the bank or whatever, we always slipped the money under there. And if you landed on free parking, it was like winning the lottery.
We did the same thing, so you have to wonder how universal these deviations were from the rules, right? Because there must have been kids everywhere not reading the rules or finding the rules too complicated for like an 8, 9, 10-year-old mind. Auction, what's that? all we could figure out was I owe you $20. That was about as far as we could go. Yeah, so we just, but having said that, I can recall playing for hours and hours and hours. The money was all curled up sort of thing. And kind of all the edges were all like frayed and like whatever. In fact, I can even recall, I just thought of this now, going down to the toy store in the local mall at some point and buying a new pack of Monopoly money.
Really?
Yeah. Why we did that, I don't know. I think we wanted to have more money.
Sometimes if you really went for a long time, you could run out of money.
That's it.
Or a particular denomination of
yes, money. Exactly. So I bought, there was a stack of money. They were why they were selling that when you look back on that, I don't know. Actually, now that I think about it, we, in our own way, were doing quantitative easing.
Even at that age, we were cheating the system.
Cheating the system, exactly. Driving prices up, creating inflation, sawed-off little neoliberalists. So we bought this pack of money wrapped up in cellophane, and then it drove me crazy because half the money in the game was like crisp and new, like a fresh piece of paper, and the other half was like all soft and rolled up.
Just
and
like real money.
Had cigarette burns in it from like the older people playing, vaguely smelled of pot from all the pot parties upstairs. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always remember you would play with 4 people, 3, 4, or 5 people, whatever it was, and I always look at the way they're setting up their cards when they bought stuff. I'm like, that's not the way how are you organized? That's not the way you put your cards down on. You have to be organized. You follow the route, right? I would go, if I bought the first thing, they would go on the left, right? Like when you pass go, right?
Yes.
So your purple ones would be there, then your yellow, whatever. So that when someone is rolling, I can come across my board. Because if they landed on your property, you charged them rent, right? There was a fee.
That's right.
But if you forgot, they could keep going.
That's right, keep going, yeah.
So if you had them all over the freaking place, you can follow along.
It's a metaphor for life itself, isn't
exactly.
it?
You're a shitty landlord.
Yeah, exactly. Did you keep your money in your hand, like a deck of cards fanned out, or did you put your money on the table in front of you so that others could generally assess your wealth?
No, mine was out. I would have it tucked under my edge of the board by denomination.
Yeah, mine was out too, actually. I asked because...
But there are some people who would make the pile, right? And you're like, it's not when it's time to pay, you're like, come on, get on with it. It's 2 20s and a 10, let's go. Yeah. And they're rifling through because nothing's in order. So the people who would put in a pile, generally, they just shove the money in a pile.
Yeah, I was
it's not separated.
I was on mine in order at denominations. I asked the question because, right. In later years when I played with my 2 daughters, I just to bother them, I would keep all my money in my hand. And I'd be like, well, you're not supposed to know how much money I have. Like, well, you can't do that. I said, well, of course I can do that. Like, I'm just, you're not going to...
You hid the money from them?
I hid the money from my daughters, yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, bastard. Eh?
Yeah. I know that later versions of Monopoly actually introduced even a credit card, right? Like
did they? Yeah.
You would pay, you would swipe, and then you would do your thing like that.
Yeah, and there was the themes too, right? There was like we had a Disney-themed Monopoly game, so the properties were all movie titles, and it just never felt right to me. I wanted Connecticut Avenue, I wanted Park Place, I wanted, Ventnor, whatever,
I think I may have bought the Canadian edition at one point just for fun because it was all streets from Canada. I say that, I could be wrong, and maybe I never bought it. Right. But I remember there was 2 streets from Montreal. I think it was Sherbrooke, St. Catherine, I can't remember. It's got to be either Saint Laurent or Sherbrooke, I'm guessing.
I probably could have adapted to that because they were streets, but like landing on the Princess and the P or whatever it was, that's wrong. Or landing on Snow White.
You got to change your shoes after that.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah, no. The themed editions are not because it's for us. It's the classic Ventnor and Marvin Gardens.
Yeah, Marvin Gardens,
the Electric Company, and the Reading Railroad. Yeah. If I see CN, it's not quite the same. So the other big game would have been, I remember watching on TV, was the Game of Life.
Oh, God, yeah, the Game of Life.
Which was the Game of Life, and that whole song and people playing it. It looked like the greatest thing ever. It was like you were an adult if you played the Game of Life. Because you had adult-type situations came up, right?
You were getting married, you were going to school, you were buying your first house and all this stuff.
You're buying crypto.
Crypto, investing in crypto, losing it all, sort of thing. And I can recall we were a good mix on our block of guys and girls sort of thing. Okay. And we kind of saw this as more of a girls game. Okay. Because which is not right, but it's the way our little brains thought. Yeah. It was more like, getting married and kids and all that. We were kind of vaguely suspicious of it. We were happier with Monopoly, or again, back to the, outside running around with plastic guns. But every now and then we'd sit down and go through the Game of Life and you'd wind up, and you'd put all this stuff.
There's no shooting.
No shooting.
There's no conquest.
No conquest, exactly. No conquest, no violence, no explosives. Yeah. No fun.
I played the Game of Life later on because nobody I knew had the game, and I played much later on in life. I can't even remember how old I was. And I remember being disappointed that those damn commercials, Dave, they sold those products so well.
Oh, yeah.
And when you got the game, boom. And, it was not the same thing. And the biggest for me letdown was Mousetrap.
Oh, you had Mousetrap. I never had it.
Well, I had it as an adult.
So here's not like last year or anything, right?
No. Here's a little story. It's probably, was my son born? I'm not sure. But my wife and I, at some point we started talking. We both had like this memory of Mousetrap, seeing it on TV, and it looked so fun with moving all the mice around, and then this little net would come down and capture the mouse.
Yes, looked amazing.
We bought a game of Mousetrap, thinking we're going to play with our son. And if you think the rules to Monopoly are complex, read the rules to Mousetrap. It is insane how complex it is.
Wow!
And for you to be able to drop that the greatest part of the game was dropping the net. The rules for that to happen is it's insane. It's so complex for that to happen. Everything has to line up perfectly for the mouse to be there on a Tuesday when you've had roast beef.
Wow.
And then you could drop the thing.
It looks so easy on the commercial.
I know. And when it does come down, it's kind of like... It comes down, and sometimes it doesn't come down all the way, and it was really, really disappointing.
It smells like Don Draper's work to me, sort of thing, from the mid-1960s. It had to be, eh?
Well, that's the thing. You think of all the commercials when you would watch cartoons. Well, actually, we used to watch commercials interrupted by cartoons.
Yeah, I agree.
So at some point, I know in Canada, they passed a law that you are not allowed to advertise products to children. So if you watch children's shows today, there's no commercials for products.
Oh, is that true? I didn't know that.
In Canada.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, that's good. I think that's correct. Actually, yeah.
And I remember my son, when he was very small, we were watching TV. We used to watch Treehouse, which was a network, a children's network. And it was uninterrupted. The show would end, they'd say something, and then another show would come on. And at some point, he grew up, and so we switched over to YTV.
Okay.
And we're watching a cartoon or whatever, and we get to a commercial, and my son goes, "What the hell happened?" He didn't say what the hell happened. But he looks at me and goes, "What happened to the show?" I go, "Oh, this is a commercial." He goes, "What's a commercial?" He had never seen a commercial because the really early shows that for little kids on those networks had no commercials.
You know, that's sweet, actually. I mean, what a good thing, I think, you know, to have never seen a commercial. Even though I worked in advertising, I recognize that not always a force for good.
So another M game will be Mastermind. I don't know if you remember Mastermind.
Yeah, that was probably kind of in the chess years again. Yeah. Getting a bit more cerebral.
So Mastermind would have been the Wordle of its day.
Yes, would have been the Wordle of its day. Yes, that's
so
good.
Basically a little plastic board with grids, and you got like, I think 10 tries maybe, and you put pegs, were they colored pegs?
Colored pegs, yeah.
In 5 or 6 different holes, hidden behind a little wall. And then the other player would have to guess what they were and would put their pegs down, and then you would say, oh, you got this one right, this one wrong, whatever.
Yeah, and you would try to guess your way to the correct answer.
Exactly.
And you had 10 chances or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually not unlike Battleship when you think about it in that sense, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Weirdly, but a more concentrated form. Yeah, my brother, I think my parents got us a pocket Mastermind when we went on a long drive for a holiday one year. Might have been going to Prince Edward Islands. We drove, so whatever. So we were I remember sitting in the back of the car playing Mastermind badly, you know, but still.
You had a lot of those travel games back then. They were magnetic, right?
Yeah, that's right. The magnetic travel games,
Weekly magnetic. You hit a big bump. It's like, come on. I wasn't there.
Oh, God, magnetic travel games. God, that's another one.
Yeah, travel games. So a game that you obviously couldn't take traveling, Dave?
Yes.
Tabletop hockey.
Oh, God, I love tabletop hockey so much.
We got a kit. We had a set. I don't remember if we got it for Christmas or if I got it the famous year when I got, I had to have my tonsils removed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you had that done, eh?
Yeah. So I had my tonsils removed. And of course, the fun part of the tonsil removal is ice cream.
The ice cream
and Jell-O.
Ice cream and
Jell-O. And one of the neighborhood kids, I can still picture their house, a couple houses down across the lane. They showed up with 2 garbage bags full of toys for me. And so they were getting rid of their old toys. And
they knew you'd be stuck inside. Oh, isn't that nice?
So they gave me a bunch of toys. And the other one was a whole bunch of Tintin comic books.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, the original Tintins. All of this, none of which I have. I have none of my childhood toys.
What happened to it all, Richard?
I don't know. I guess my mom threw them out or whatever. We outgrew them and they figured there's no room in the house and they got rid of them. And not that necessarily I would want them today. It's not like I want to hold on to an old G.I. Joe, but I'm just curious. You know, you have people that go, toys in the attic, right?
Yeah, toys in the attic.
Literally toys in the attic. They go up there and they still have the G.I. Joe and, it's still there and... Nice.
It's okay. Mine are gone too. Yeah. I mean, there's there's nothing there, really. I mean, maybe the Mastermind game. I think the Risk game might be around.
And I may have gotten the tabletop hockey from them because I remember getting a set. It was probably Montreal versus Toronto as the 2 teams, right? And you'd move the little levers and you try to score, right? Our version of foosball, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, because I never played foosball, but the tabletop hockey I played, it seems that went on for quite a while. Ages 13, 14, 15, something like that. And I seem to recall that the set we had like a gondola over the ice and you could dial in the score or whatever. And I can recall doing this shoving motion and trying you'd power shove the puck into the other guy's net, by you sort of pass to the forward.
Yeah.
And if you did this hard smash, I know this isn't very visual for people listening to a podcast, but try to bear with us here.
Google it.
And a score. It was great fun. In fact, 10 years after that, when I started working, and I went to work for a large company in the Montreal area, and I'm now 25, 26, and there's a couple of other guys. I meet new friends there, and this guy, another Dave, says to me, "Hey, we're playing tabletop hockey at whatever's house. You want to?" I was like, "No way, yeah,
really?"
So now we've got cigarettes and beer. I guess at that point, and we're playing tabletop hockey. It was fantastic. Last time I ever played.
Yeah,
I say it only happened once that I can recall, but
yeah, tabletop hockey was great. And if someone had sometimes you'd go to a friend's house and they had a bad set where one of the levers had been bent slightly, so when you would turn it, it would kind of get stuck, and then bam, it would go, and you'd be under there trying to straighten out the rods, not the levers, the rods. Yeah, like Rod Gilbert, right?
Rod Gilbert, It's a complicated game when you think about it to make, sort of thing. Yeah. All that. I can remember looking underneath, and that was all springs and bent metal and all that. It was
and really the little plastic gears, right? The rod went to a gear to another gear that turned the player around, right? Yeah, I could never get a pass straight. Some people really had it, and you could pass from one player, and they'd move the other one down, and no offside, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. You didn't play the offside rule, no.
No, because everybody was offside.
offside all the time.
Offside all the time. Another tabletop, well, not really a tabletop game. This is a table game that I played. It's probably in '76. We had a house in Saint-Sauveur. We rented a house in Saint-Sauveur, and we go to summer camp. Was shuffleboard, or as we called it, Mississippi.
Mississippi, eh?
It was a long table. I'm guessing 8-10 feet long. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
Probably a couple of feet across.
So you would have this in the house sort of thing.
This was in the community center at the summer camp. And there was one, maybe two tables, and it was like lineups for people to play this. And you had wooden pucks that you would slide across, right? And at the other end, you would have like this a triangle that was printed onto the table with a gutter at the back, right? If you got it in the back, obviously your puck was dead. Okay. But you would try to score points based on where your puck landed.
Like, kind of like curling, sort of, right?
Well, like curling, but curling is rings. But this was shuffleboard,
right?
So it's more like shuffleboard, like you see the old men on the boats with their stick shoving them down. Well, this is a tabletop version of that. It was a blast. I mean, I came back that summer. I wanted to build one of these. Like I still want to build one.
Sounds like fun.
So shuffleboard. Then we're back to the violent game.
Oh, outdoors, you mean?
Outdoor game. Our friend lawn darts.
The lawn darts. Yeah. Again, for people who didn't live through this era, it's hard to imagine, but there we were. A lawn dart was a large, sharp object with fins. It's almost like a short arrow, and the fins on the arrow were about the size of the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
So this was a big item, and you would, and then there was a piece sticking out the end, so you could hold it. A handle. You could swing it, and you would throw it up in the air, and the idea was to drop it into sort of like a hula hoop type target over on the other side of the garden without stabbing one of your, fellow players in the eye or the head or something. Because I would think getting hit by one of these would create serious injury.
Oh, probably. Yeah, because it had a weighted head, right?
Yes, weighted head.
So it had a weighted head, then you had like what would be like the pointy part. It was rounded on the end, but still it had to be, sharp enough that it could go into the ground.
Yes.
And then the fletching or the feathers were in the middle as opposed to an arrow where the fletching is at the end, and then you had the handle.
Right.
Well, we didn't like that. So what we did is you could take them apart. They had like a little nut at one end. Right. So you take it apart and we'd put the handle in the middle and the fletching at the end, and then we threw them like spears.
Oh, shoot. Wow, what a good idea.
So same game, we would play with the hula hoops, but this time instead of throwing them up into like an arc, we would like have to whip them like arrows. And then that wasn't like spears rather. That wasn't fun enough. So we started making vertical targets. So when we were rebuilding the country house, we had all these doors that we had taken out because the house had burnt, and it was a house we bought a house that had burned and we rebuilt it. So we would take these doors out and line them up, and then we'd go with like paint and like paint targets, and then we'd whip these lawn darts at the table. At the doors, and you could whip with sufficient force to push that dart clean through the door.
So it was sharp enough then, right?
It was a matter of, I think, momentum.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if we actually sharpened the ends. That would have been a good idea.
Yeah. It's never too late.
Never too late. Well, it is, because I think they're
illegal now, I think.
Either they're illegal or they have a tennis ball on the end.
Probably, yeah, that's it.
Which is really hard to get into the hoop because it keeps bouncing.
Yeah, which would have been no fun to us at all back in the day, right?
No.
You've made me think of something here that actually, do you remember the vinegar baking soda reaction?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that was the thing, right? You would get vinegar, baking soda, both of which were available in Mom's kitchen. You put them in like a little bottle, shake it, and it would blow up, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'll take credit for this. This was my great idea of the time. You get like a jar, say an old pickle jar or a jam jar that Mom had, whatever. And you would pour, a couple of inches of vinegar into the bottom. And then here's the brilliance. You would take a candle and drip candle wax onto the vinegar.
To seal it
off. Oh. Then you would put in the baking soda. So now the two reactants are separated by this thin layer of wax. Screw the cap down on the pickle jar.
Somehow I'm predicting shrapnel.
Shake it and run like hell.
Did it blow up?
Yeah. It would. Sometimes they would go just blow up. Sometimes the cap would blow off or distort.
Really?
And sometimes the jar and cap were actually too strong for the reaction, and it would just sit there. And then I guess we would leave it. They're probably still out there, like unexploded bombs from World War II, out where I lived, that people find from time to time. But like that was us, man. Just find some way.
Did you get the jar to actually explode?
In some cases, it would break.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wow. I guess if the glass was weaker, had a fault in it. So yes, but not always. In some cases, it would be the cap that would go.
Okay.
Or you just get a fizzle.
This is like the equivalent of putting a Mentos in a bottle of pop today, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but times 1,000.
We did this thing with a BB gun and a can of root beer, because we had heard that root beer, when shaken, produced the most explosive reaction, the most gas, whatever. I don't know where we picked this piece of trivia.
Yeah.
So we shook the hell out of a can of root beer and we stuck it in the lane and we shot it with a BB gun. and to my mind, I remember the can exploding quite dramatically.
Yeah.
But again, I don't have any proof. I don't have any witnesses. Those people are all gone.
I like that. We had heard, as you say, right?
Yeah, we had heard somewhere. And I'm thinking this, and I can see myself in my mind's eye talking to my friend, and we're going, our arms are going up. Yes, so I heard this. I saw that root beer is the one to use. And where we would have picked this up pre-internet.
Probably the New York Times. Yeah.
And it was not fake news.
No, that's right. Yeah.
As proven by an actual science experiment, not like those flat earthers.
Oh, those guys, yeah.
Again, if we're going to go explosions, we're tying it right back.
Oh, God,
you remember fireworks?
Oh, yeah, every year.
Remember laughter?
Yeah, does anybody remember laughter? Why do we both know that? That was a Led Zeppelin reference, by the way.
It is, yeah.
Obscure Led Zeppelin reference. Yeah, because the fathers on the block, again, would every summer, I guess it was probably Canada Day and maybe one for the Queen's birthday, would get us all together for like a big corn roast and a fireworks display. So it wasn't municipal like now, like here at the city does when it was just like a few dads with a few extra bucks in their pockets, went down to the store, bought some fireworks and blew them all off.
Yeah, see, living in the city, I don't remember seeing fireworks except for probably special events, and now fireworks go off all the time. We have them we have the fireworks festival.
Oh, we have the international. Exactly. It's a big deal.
But I remember my godfather who lived in Drummondville. I would go down sometimes in the summer because he was my godfather. So he'd take me down. I'd spend a couple weeks there. And on the last day of my visit, my parents would drive down, and me and my cousins who were older than me, we'd go to the store and we'd buy a bunch of fireworks. And as the sun started to go down, they would set off the fireworks as a goodbye, kind of thing. And the end of your visit kind of thing. And it was the coolest thing. I so looked for it. And my uncle had an in-ground pool.
Oh, nice.
An in-ground pool.
Nice.
When us in the city, to go to a pool, we had to go to a municipal pool. No one I knew had a pool growing up. So that's my experience with fireworks. It was always like my cousins and my godfather setting off the fireworks as the sun went down.
I can recall looking at them. They'd all be like in a pile on the ground and they were just, just all wrapped up in those colorful wrappers and all that. We'd be like, ooh, and exciting. And and then at some point, like the firecrackers, they were deemed illegal. I don't know when. Later, obviously.
Yeah. Although, where was I recently? We were driving somewhere, and I saw they had fireworks listed on the door.
Well, down by the border, you'll see it. So then driving to the U.S.
This is like nearby here.
Oh, really?
I was with my wife somewhere. We were driving,
shocking.
and I went. Oh, we went. I swear, I think we were in Hudson.
Yeah.
Getting gas. There's a gas station on the main road there near
I think
Harwood.
I know it.
Harwood, I think it's called.
I think I know it, yeah.
And I think the store there said fireworks.
Well, maybe they're allowed to kind of out of the boonies or something like that, right?
In the city, definitely not. I mean, we can't even make a fire in the city.
No.
So we skipped over this one, which was something I played, did when I was a kid, and you would have done too, which was a big part of my childhood, was the plastic models, like model cars, right?
Oh, God, yeah, models. Yeah, I made a lot. Yeah, oh, God, yeah. I loved that stuff. I was into the painting. So, again, graphic design, like we're kind of a little bit artsy sort of thing, so I love that stuff.
Yeah, and it was a blast. You would buy, they still sell them. I mean, Ted's Hobby Shop in Plaza here still has a whole wall of them. And again, a lot of them to be warships, fighter planes.
Yes.
But I don't remember the warships and the fighter planes much as a kid. I remember it was a car, right? Like you could buy like a Camaro.
That's
right.
Or
a reproduction of a truck or whatever. And some of them would come with like decals, right?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Decals for our southern friends.
Decals, yeah.
I heard someone say decals on a video the other day. It still threw me off. And you would wet them, right? You would put them in water. And then you'd carefully slide them on the side of your vehicle or your model. Yeah. And those were fun. And what I hated about them though was the glue.
Yes, it would stink, right?
Yeah,
Number one.
It was almost like a rubber-based Testors brand.
Testors or Humbrol was the other one. Yeah,
and it would give me a headache. In the same way that I can't use a Big Pen.
Oh, really?
Big Pens, it's like an oil-based.
I know the smell you're talking about. Yeah,
and it used to make me nauseous when I was a kid. Right. That's why I stopped using ballpoints and moved to fountain pens. Yeah,
I can recall doing early on sort of monster. I had like a Wolfman model and a Frankenstein model. Just to the first ones I remember, I don't think I had the wherewithal to paint them, so just sticking them together was kind of enough. And then there was a lot of tanks, and I tried biplanes for a while, the World War I, the Snoopy versus Red Baron stuff, know. I remember getting the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise and the Enterprise itself, trying to paint those. I wouldn't have been any good at it. I see people do this now on YouTube who it's a whole different deal. But tons of fun with that. I had all the paints, and I did remember once doing a nuclear submarine, the George Washington, that was cut apart, so you could see all the compartments inside. Really worked on on that. Later on, blew it up, actually, with firecrackers and gasoline at a later stage of life. Decided to sacrifice it to the gods of teenagerism or something like that, you know?
Yeah. It's true. I remember the painting was always the least fun part because it came, in the box, came a crappy set of paints, right?
Yeah,
They were like little pots attached together with a plastic connector in between.
Yeah, like a sprue,
Yeah, and then you would pop the top off, and sometimes the paint would be dried, or there was never enough paint in that color. The car is blue. They give you one little pot of blue, and then they had one yellow stripe, and they gave you a whole pot of yellow when you needed 2 pots of blue.
Right.
Or if you were, if you had the means, you would go and you would buy the actual paints, right? You could buy that. You'd go into the store and it'd be that wall of were they testers, the paints?
Testers and Humbrol. Testers were in the little glass balls.
Yeah.
Humbrol were in the little tins.
Okay.
Yeah, like almost like a tiny paint can. But let's face it.
Did you have a tiny paint opener?
Oh, tiny paint opener. But I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of needed to be airbrushing this stuff to get a decent result. And who was doing that? Sitting there like slapping on paint on the side of a battleship, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then they gave you shitty brushes. So you had to invest in the proper paints and the proper brushes and then really spend some time in it. I remember the other model I got was someone, and I think it's my godfather again, gave me a totem pole kit.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that you had 2 halves of the totem pole, which were like plastic in the shape of a totem pole. Yeah. And I forget if they snapped together or you glued them together. So you had a plastic totem pole, and then you had a roll of what looked like gauze, but was like a kind of a papier-mâché thing, but it was embedded. It was like a plaster embedded in the gauze.
Wow.
And so you wet this, and then you wrapped it around the totem pole, smoothed it out, let it dry, smoothed it out before it dried. And then you had like basically a plaster statue, and then you had the paints, and then you would have to paint it.
That's really interesting. I'd never even heard of such a thing. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that was cool. I'm pretty sure I did a terrible job painting it.
Right. Well, well, I'll throw one in here that I just thought of. You made me think of it in terms of like, crafts and stuff. Do you remember wood burning?
Oh, yeah.
Again, this would never be sold today, but essentially, again, for those, who weren't, born in our time, the wood burning set comprised a little kind of a metal, almost like a soldering iron that you plugged into the wall, and the tip of this thing would heat up, and you could put different shaped tips on it. And then you would get these little pieces of wood with a design already kind of lightly printed on them. And the idea was you would press the burning hot tip of the wood burner into the design and replace the ink with actual burned wood. And I'm thinking to myself, you wouldn't give that to a kid today, right? You would expect them to either burn their own eyeballs out, burn the house down, and yet there we were happily wood burning away.
Well, Dave, Lee Valley sells the Pyrography starter set for $64, and it's got a wooden disc and a little kit for wood burning.
They don't.
Yeah,
Pyrography?
Pyrography is what it says, yeah.
I like that.
But now they have, I don't know if you've seen the laser ones?
No.
Where it's like, you have 3D printers.
Yeah,
well, you also have laser cutters, right?
Okay.
So they have laser ones that will etch on metal and wood, and I've seen people do this with wood. You put your template in, you design it on your computer, send the file over, and the laser will laser burn the wood for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
hey, that's cool.
Precision.
Yeah.
I think it was just a way to sell soldering irons.
Probably, yeah.
Because you look at the wood burning kits, you could do it with a soldering gun.
Yeah, you could. That's true. You could.
Yeah, my brother had you remember the big Weller soldering gun? It was a big black thing, and it had the tip, and you had the 2 bolts, and you could. I think it had
dad had one,
wood burning tip in there. You could buy tips, and you would heat it up, and then mind you, you're using this big plastic, plastic bodied, but it seems to me it had quite a bit of weight. And you could do some wood burning, but when you think of wood burning, they're usually like almost stylus style.
Yeah,
that's like a soldering iron versus a soldering gun.
But again, like no sense of danger there at all, sort of thing. There you're on the carpet, or at the kitchen table, with all this flammable material. Get like an 8-year-old wielding like a
next to the model kit with the flammable paints.
The model kit with the flammable paints. Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah.
Yes, and makes a great gift. Not.
Yeah,
to me, it would have been the equivalent of getting a painted rock.
Yeah.
Or one of those shovels that someone's painted.
Well, imagine that. Imagine you give that as a gift to somebody, and then you notice that the neighbor's house is on fire like 2 days after Christmas, and you realize, oh my God, they gave the neighbor's kids a wood burning set, and they burned the house down.
And they literally burnt wood with it.
Yeah, burned wood with it. Yes, exactly. Yes, they did. They were burned with it. Yeah.
Well, it's funny how today the advent of the collectibles market, right? Like you have comic books and hockey. I mean, we had hockey cards, we had baseball cards.
Oh,
I mean,
God, yeah.
there was cards for everything. I never really bought baseball cards. I bought hockey cards, and you would, you'd meet on the street, and the guys would have the cards, and you'd always have the guy with like, it looked like 1,000 cards, and you're like, you want to trade? And he's like, yeah, show me, and then you'd flip through your 7 cards because that's all you could, and he'd go, got it, yeah, got it. I'm like, how do you know? You have 1,000 cards. How do you? I know all my cards. I know all my cards, right?
Yeah.
And then you would have the special editions. I bring that up because it's crazy today, the collectibles market, right? Think of Beanie Babies, right? Beanie Babies came out, or Cabbage Patch dolls, and they were less of a doll and more of a collectible. As they came out, people were collecting. You had to have the whole collection and add value. Yeah. Like, man, we destroyed our toys. We played with our toys. Comic books. Nobody took a comic book and pristine read it and put it back in its wrapper. I don't even remember them having wrappers.
No.
Now they come hermetically sealed.
Yeah, we had stacks of the damn things, the comic books, and they just went out the garbage sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of collectibles, I mean, we all had the cards. I remember starting off with Apollo moon mission cards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they were, I guess that was a big deal sort of thing. And by then you could, however many were in the set, and you could get all the astronauts and all the different space capsules and all that stuff and collect them. And then we had Batman cards, because that was so popular. There was a whole series of Batman cards. And then there was oversized custom car cards coming out of Chuck Barris's thing in California, who I found out later was like, he was like a genius marketer car guy.
The Gong Show guy?
That was his brother. Yes, his half brother, Chuck Jr. Chuck Barris's, is it Chuck Barris? George Barris. George Barris. Sorry, Chuck Barris is the Gong Show guy.
Yeah.
George Barris was like famous.
Who also wrote Palisades Park.
Did he?
He sings Palisades Park, the song.
Oh my God, well, that changes everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, cards, and then the hockey cards, and I had some baseball cards, mostly the Expos. Hockey cards all over the place. Did you used to play the games where you throw the cards at the wall?
Yeah,
all that stuff, right? And then if one was standing up, that counted for something. Yeah. You could win cards.
You had to get as close to the wall as possible.
Closies and onesies and all this stuff. Yeah. Where that came from? Again, who passed that knowledge on to us? I have no idea. It was almost like it sprang fully formed in our heads. But probably if I kept those cards, and you would say the same, in pristine condition and put them in a shoebox somewhere, I bet they'd be worth some money today.
But what did we do with our pristine hockey? Some of us probably had a Bobby Orr rookie card.
Probably.
And we tied it, we put it on our bikes and the spokes to make
noises, yeah.
How many collectibles were destroyed that way?
That's right, eh? Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of my most creatively destructive events of my childhood was I got a Timex watch for my 11th birthday or something. Okay. This was kind of a coming of age. Dave needs a watch now to kind of know where he is, whatever sort of thing. So what did I do? Because I've been watching the Timex torture chest commercials on TV. I attached the watch to the to the undercarriage of my bicycle, rode it through the fields, came back with like half a watch strap on. So my dad comes home that night and says something like, "So how are you enjoying the new watch?" I'm like, "I don't have it anymore. I ruined it.
Failed the Timex test.
Failed the Timex torture test. I got L for that."
Yeah. But the idea of collectibles, sometimes I find it laughable, and I think a lot of it is nostalgia and is fake value, in the sense that I was at a camera show. I remember when the camera shows, they used to come to the Holiday Inn here in Point Claire, and a guy's selling a brownie. So he's got a brownie camera with the flash on it, and he's got a close-up lens on it, right? The portrait lens, right? So I go up to the guy and I start talking to him, start haggling the guy for price. He's like, these are rare, right? They're collectibles. I said, no, they're not. He goes, yeah, it's a collectible. This is a brownie. They made 12 million of these. Yeah. How can it have value if they made 12 million of them? Yeah. So, give me a break. Same thing with the hockey cards. Yeah. They may be collectible because we threw them all out because they had no value back then. So now there's nostalgia for that card from back then. But now it's like they buy the cards, they don't even open them, thinking they're going to have value. Well, 90% of those players are going to be freaking has-beens and not going to have done anything remarkable. Those cards will be worthless.
Yeah, it kind of takes all the fun out of it. For us, they were just ephemera, right? They were just your cards, and my cards are gone.
And I've heard people say, my comic book collection is going to be how my kids pay for their kids' college. I'm like, really? By then, nostalgia kick might be gone and they might be worthless again.
No, I can recall saw when the card stores started showing up. Like 30 years ago, they'd be like, you know, whatever it was called, Le Roi the King of Cards or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember going into one once and thinking all these things that were just nothing for us growing up that we would throw at the wall or put on our bike, to your point, attach to our spokes, or in like sort of like plexiglass cases with price points on. I was like, this is weird.
And the thing is, they collect, they go somewhere in a hermetically sealed room with their cigars.
Yeah.
And their first wives.
Yeah.
Whereas we actually used the cards. We played with them. We traded them. We had fun with them.
Yep.
It was a whole, kind of like a rite of passage. Yep. And now it's like you get hockey cards and you store them. And like, what's the use?
Yeah, no.
It's like a dentist buying a Leica and putting it in a case.
It sucks all the fun out of it, on some level. I know what you mean. I mean, one thing we haven't talked, well, you mentioned comics, actually. It's worthy of note then, comic books, that there was all the stuff that was for sale in the comic books. You'll remember for sure, eh? In the back there.
Yeah. The sea monkeys.
Sea monkeys was a classic. X-ray glasses. Thinking, maybe we can get these X-ray. Look through like the girl across the street's dress or something. That was like the big
X-ray specs, I think they were called. Specs.
X-ray specs. A little picture of the guy there, like whatever. Well, the sea monkeys. I never ordered them.
Yeah.
I found out 40 years later that they were a brine shrimp.
Yeah, they're brine shrimp.
The brine shrimp, which I had fed to my fish, because I used to keep fish. I fed to my fish brine shrimp, right? So little, I don't know what they are, insect-like.
But the weird part is when I ordered them like much later when my son was very small. I ordered a packet of them, but they're kind of like they're dried. It's like powder. It's like
freeze dried, right?
Yeah. It's like dried shrimp, and you throw them in the water, and they just come back to life.
They hatch out. Yeah. I can see the ad now where there's one with a little king, a little crown on. You got like a little queen, and there's kids and all that.
I seem to remember like a seahorse with a crown.
That's right. Yeah. And you can teach them tricks, they said.
Yeah.
And I think what that is if you shine a light somewhere, they're attracted to light, so they will actually go to where. I think that's the trick you can do. It's bullshit, obviously.
Yeah.
But the one that captivated our attention back then, it was always like a bottom half of the page was a big ad, was the $6.95 tank. Oh, okay. So it was a tank, and there'd be like a little picture of.
You don't mean like a fishbowl tank?
No, not a fish tank. I mean like a Sherman tank or a King Tiger if you're German sort of thing. And there'd be a picture of these two kids in this tank, and one would have on like sort of like headphones, like he was listening to the driver, and you were like, wow, we could get a tank. And there was this kid down the street we really disliked. Okay. And the fantasy was we'd get the tank. And we could roll down and basically blast him with the main gun, right?
The main gun on a cardboard tank.
On a cardboard tank, exactly. So that was what we were thinking, I wonder if we can pull that off. But no one had the 695 and whatever. Yeah. And
it was just, they were always just slightly out of reach,
just
right?
slightly out of reach,
$2.95. Damn, I get 10 cents on my allowance. 10
cents,
it's going to take me 30 weeks.
30 years, I'll never do it, same there was the submarine. I guess they were like a twin product, probably the same place. So it was a Polaris submarine. And you pictured two kids in the submarine, and it was like launching missiles for $6.95. Like, I don't know what they were selling.
Yeah. Well, they're selling the fantasy.
Yeah, selling fantasy.
It would have been perfect to fill with model glue and firecrackers and blow them up.
Yeah. So those were, that was as much fun. The back of the comic books, that was as much fun as anything, right? There was the itching powder. Yeah. And, stink, you mentioned stink bombs before. There were stink bombs.
And was there not hypnosis glasses?
Oh, for sure.
And it had like
the googly eyes, exactly.
It had that weird circular pattern on the glasses. The idea was you were supposed to wear them, and then you could hypnotise people
just by looking at people. You would hypnotise them. Yeah. And then once you'd hypnose them, you
switch them to the naked
X-ray specs and look at their naked body. Exactly. And then like escape in your tank.
Yeah. And I always wondered, I remember even as a kid going X-ray, but X-rays you see inside. How do you make it so that you only see through the clothes?
Interesting, isn't it?
I want to see all the way through.
So you were thinking too hard there, right? That was too much.
Well, I couldn't afford it. I had to do something,
that's
right?
It, yeah. No, never ordered a damn thing there sort of thing.
We ordered, I still remember being at the pool. So it's Marquette. So it's like we were at a certain age. And we ordered a camera.
Oh, yeah.
I seem to think it came from a comic book, and I think it was some sort of metal camera, and it came with a bizarro film. And the film was probably the size of 110. It might have actually been 110, but it wasn't in a cassette. It was on a little metal spool. And I remember we had to stick it in the back of this shitty camera, which I think was metal. I don't think it was plastic. I think it was metal.
This was ordered from the back of a comic book.
I think so. I seem to have that memory. And you wound the film on there, and then it probably had tons of like these. And I remember, I think it's my younger brother had the camera. We took some pictures at the pool. We had it developed, and I think the pictures had like tons of light leaks. But it was one of those things, you would get this thing and you say, say, oh, you look at the drawing and the comic, you go, oh, this looks fantastic. And you get the camera and it's like terrible condition.
Lunch bag let down.
Lunch bag let down,
Every
exactly.
time, yeah.
An early Holga, right? Remember the Holgas came out?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Well, they look kind of cool though, right?
Yeah, but that was their whole thing. You never knew if they were going to leak, and the leaking was a feature, not a bug.
Feature, that's right. It's a feature, not a bug, right? Yeah. Yeah, mine leaks in an individual, unique way, not like your leak. So I don't know. That was a pretty good look at our toys in the attic.
Our toys in the attic, yeah.
Any others you want to pull up, or are we?
I think I'm good. I'm sure we're gonna put the mic down and we'll do a mic drop, and we'll remember 100 of them.
I have no doubt. Yeah. But that was a lot of fun. Let's go make some explosives.
We'll dig through your bunker to look for some of those.
If the RCMP hears this, they're gonna be at the front door. Eh? What are you guys doing in there?
Promoting explosives.
Yeah, we heard all kinds of words we don't like to hear. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. All right, Dave.
Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.